All right, welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod, your college huddle Gopher football podcast. Joining us today, we have Brandon, aka Jack or Blackie Chan, from the Light the Torch podcast, our USC football podcast for the college huddle. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today to talk some football. How are you, man?
Good. Appreciate you guys having me on. So I'm excited to talk this game.
Yeah, it's a little weird that this might be more of a commonality, Minnesota versus USC. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll catch you in the snow one of these years. I read that USC only played in the snow, I think, twice in its history. So we'll have to get you up here when it is snowing. But we'll just get right into it, Brandon. I got the first question for you. Just general, how do you feel about USC being in the Big Ten?
Personally, from my standpoint, I'm happy about it because I actually live in Minnesota, so it's easy for me to go to games. Especially this game, I'll be at the game, and I really want to try to hit like the Michigan games, Ohio State. So um, I'm just excited, and a whiteout game for Penn State. So it's really good to be, for me at least, but. For the fans that are out west, it kind of sucks. It's a little bit harder for them to travel. But other than that, it's nice because we don't have to deal with Pac-12 after dark anymore. Because they, for me, games would come on at like 10 or 11 o'clock at
Right.
night. So I'm staying up till 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning just to
Yeah,
watch it out. So I'm
I
excited.
sup I suppose if that is your team, that's probably a downside. But I used to look at like Pac-12 after dark as magic. Like you end the
Right.
Saturday, you've been watching football all day, and maybe you're just laying on the couch or crawling into bed. And there's that one more game on, and it's usually like nuts. I don't know. That Pac-12 after dark just had that magic about it. But
Yeah, crazy
um,
things happen.
yeah,
That's right.
it did.
But yeah.
Uh,
Uh, Go ahead.
Oh, I was just
yeah,
saying. Okay, sorry.
no. I was just gonna follow up with that, Brandon, and just do you feel USC kind of has their own, I guess, kind of style of play? Electrifying offense. We all know about that. Defense seems to be doing a little bit better this year. Do you feel like USC being in the Big Ten will ever have to kind of adjust how they play or how they do things while they're in this new conference?
Well, I feel like we have adjusted, and Lincoln Riley knows that we had to adjust to it, especially with our defense from last year. I'm so glad we do not have Alex Grinch anymore, because if we were going to pull that kind of defense, especially against like Michigan or any of the run heavy teams, we would have been screwed. So I think we're adjusting a lot better than I thought we would have on our first year with Danton Lynn. Because right now, like our third down defense, we're actually getting off the field. Like we were 106th of a third down defense last year, and now we're 11th, which is insane. An insane turnaround for this team, and especially for Lincoln Riley defense, which everyone always loves to harp on. Lincoln Riley will never have a good defense, but he made the right hire with Danton Lynn, and it was kind of a under the radar hire that a lot of us we weren't really talking too much about it. We were talking about maybe a defensive coordinator that was for Wisconsin at one point, or even Dave Aranda from Baylor. But then it turns out that Danton Lynn, right across town from us, actually turned out to be the right hire for us.
Yeah. Um, let's start with USC's offense, since that's the side of the ball that usually gets the most attention for them anyway. We know Miller Moss, maybe more athletic than people give him credit for. He seems to be able to escape and move around a little bit in the pocket. Or do you disagree with that statement?
No, like I agree with it. Like I was kind of nervous when it came to that because Caleb was just so elusive, and then because our offensive line wasn't the most consistent last year, and seeing Miller Moss being able to run up, move up into the pocket, and maybe get outside of it is actually really refreshing that we still have that ability.
Yeah. Sticking with that, do you feel that I'm not saying Miller Moss is necessarily better than Caleb Williams, but given that it just seems like the offense has maybe got a little bit better of a rhythm and flow to it, what do you necessarily attribute that that to this year as opposed to last year?
Well, last year, since Caleb and Lincoln really had such a great relationship, and uh, Lincoln kind of let Caleb, I would say, kind of run the offense if he needed to audible or whatever, or change the play at the line, he did. But then with Miller Moss, kind of Lincoln gets to kind of have his standard offense that he would run at Oklahoma, where it was just very methodical, just like pick apart the defense, take what the defense gives you, and just throw the ball around to multiple receivers. It's more methodical at this point rather than being a magician.
Gotcha.
Yeah, USC obviously has a lot of talented players too. I mean, just looking at guys like Zachariah Branch, both catching the football and being a huge playmaker in special teams, which us Gopher fans would love to have a guy like that. I guess talk a little bit about, what do you think the weakness of the offense is, or is there one at all? Is it just themselves getting in their way?
Right now, we would probably say it's kind of our offensive line. They do allow a little bit more pressure. We saw that a lot in that Michigan game. Miller was taking hits after hits, but that was like the best defensive line we're probably going to be playing all season. But we still saw a little of that in the Wisconsin game. So, and we're still kind of experimenting with different rotations when it comes to like our right guard and stuff like that, and just a little bit inconsistencies on our line is probably our biggest weakness at this point, and we're just trying to make sure that Miller Moss stays healthy for the whole season.
Yeah. Hey, we got our quarterback hit a bunch against Michigan too, so no hard feelings there.
It's a
And
great
we're also rotating people in at right guard a lot, so got something in common there. I think people think of USC, Miller Moss, Zachariah Branch, now Woody Marks too. Is there someone else that Gopher fans should be aware about on this USC offense? It feels like they always have weapons all over, but who else should we be on the lookout for as Gopher fans for this game?
Well, I actually predicted it this year that Zachariah wasn't going to be our leading receiver. Jacoby Lane, he's a 6'4", great hands. He was probably the least talked about receiver coming out of the same class as Zachariah Branch, and he has great hands. He has great body control, and he's going to be our leading receiver. And if that game against Wisconsin, he made some insane catches, and that's probably going to be our leading receiver this year. And right now, he's already leading it. Zachariah does have more catches, but I can see Jacoby Lane like pulling away with a lot more targets.
Yeah. No, I watched that game too. He is fantastic.
He took some big hits going across the middle, and he just got right up and just did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have another question about this upcoming game for you, Brandon.
Okay.
When you look at the Gophers, is there something that worries you about, this Gopher football team when you're playing them? Obviously, we're kind of an old school Big Ten team. Traditionally, we like to run the ball, though this year it hasn't really been as effective. But are there some things that you might look at this matchup that might be worrisome to you?
You guys are big up front. Like your defensive line's pretty big. I was looking at it, like the minimum was like three, or like the max was like 320, and then the lowest was like 310. I was like, okay, they're big up front, and your linebackers I thought were pretty good in that in the Michigan game. I watched that over today, I think, and then your run game is definitely something we struggled. Well, I wouldn't say we struggled so much with that in the Michigan game, but they still ran a lot on us, but they ran like 98% of the time. So, but yeah, your run game I think could be good because you guys have a running back from Oklahoma that Lincoln Riley actually coached that transferred to Minnesota. So he's pretty good. And then you guys have I can't remember his name, but
Darius Taylor.
He was your leading rusher last year, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're going to definitely have to watch out for him because we've been gashed a little bit on the run game.
Yeah,
We
Max.
hope
Any
so.
other? Yeah, we haven't been able to run the ball this year, so which we'll get to here. Max, do you have any other questions on the offense, or go ahead and turn it over to defense if you don't?
Yeah, I think kind of sticking with the defensive front, this kind of goes along with this game and kind of the rest of your guys' season. We saw the headlines about Bear Alexander kind of redshirting himself. I'll be honest, I wasn't watching too closely to really see like if he wasn't getting as much playing time as he deserved. I guess your thoughts on the whole situation, like does that affect the defense at all, or is it kind of a non-issue, I guess?
For it's kind of a split debate when it comes to the Trojan community. I don't see it as an issue. He was like the Michigan game. He had 21 snaps, and I watched every single one of them. He definitely had some moments that he shined in there, and but then there was a crucial moment that kind of people kind of pointed out that kind of broke open a huge run, but I wish him the best, and I think our team's still going to. We still have a lot of talent on the defensive line that's going to be able to step up. We have that. They've all been saying next man mentality when it comes to that, and we have some good freshmen that are going to be playing. Jade Adesari and Carlon Jones. They're just as big as Bear Alexander, just probably not as experienced as him. So, but they'll definitely get some experience with moving forward.
I want to ask you a question about USC secondary, just because when you look at the stats, I believe they're 14th in the country in passing yards given up on the year. Is that something that you think is more credit to the talent in that secondary, or is it the front causing disruption, or what do you credit that to? I guess.
I credit that all the talent and also the coaching because we haven't really been getting too much. We've been getting some pressure on the quarterbacks, but we have Kamari Ramsey. He transferred from UCLA with Danton Lynn and John Humphreys. Both of them they have experience with the defense. And Kamari Ramsey is already getting a lot of talk about when it comes to the NFL level, and he's probably our best secondary next to Jalen Smith, who was our nickel last year, but now he's our full-time cornerback, and he's been killing it. I just think that we have a lot of experience on that in our secondary that going into this season, we were saying that was probably our strength of our defense is our secondary.
Nice.
Yeah, a big issue we've had offensively is keeping Max Brosmer off the ground, and the offensive line struggles have definitely not helped that. Does it feel like USC's defense, are they going to be blitzing us a lot, do you think, or is they going to kind of play a little more conservative and off coverage and just be a little more bend but don't break?
It really all depends. Danton Lynn is really good at, I would say, disguising the blitz. You'll see 6 men up front, and then he'll drop the linebackers back, and sometimes he'll drop the ends back to cover. So it really all depends, and he's been really good at making adjustments, and I'm hoping that we do kind of put a little bit more. I know for a fact we're going to try to take away the run and make Max throw on us, and I feel like we can. That's pretty much our philosophy right now is just to make the quarterbacks beat us with their arms because we have the talents up front to do that, and also with the secondary. So I think we will try to pressure him, but when we've started off each game, we start with a 4-man front, and then depending how well that goes, then Danton Lynn has made an adjustment to maybe doing a 6-man, 5-man front. It really all depends on where we're getting our production from.
And then I just want your honest opinion, and don't hold back here. Who do you give the edge to? Because you said USC is probably going to focus on first taking the runaway. They're giving up roughly 150 yards per game on the ground, but the Gophers are only averaging 97.5 yards rushing on the ground right now, which puts them in 111th in the country in rushing offense, which is an issue. Do you have a leaning one way or the other right now of who's going to win that battle up front?
Uh, in all honesty, though, you guys went up against Michigan and Iowa, two great defenses. So I think those could be skewed a little bit because
Sure.
you played Iowa and then Michigan right after that. Is that
Yeah.
what your schedule was? So
Yeah.
that's a little misleading in that area. So I don't fault you guys for having that kind of rush defense or rushing offense against the best offense or defensive line in the nation, at least in my opinion. So I think that it's going to be a toss up, but I think that I lean that our defensive line will be able to hold a stalemate against who you guys do have a really big offensive line, and you do have a great tackle that's probably going to be playing in the NFL next year.
Yeah.
So I think if we could just if we could have our linebackers clean going into trying to make the tackle, then I think we have a good chance because we do have a really athletic linebacking core right now. So I'm leaning to USC is going to be able to take care of business when it comes to the rush.
Yeah.
But I'm still you still do have good backs, and I'm not like looking past them.
You're right. Right. You brought up your linebacking core, Eric Gentry. I saw he's your leading tackler, and I think he leads in sacks. Is what I saw.
Yep.
Is he off ball, or is he more of like playing on the edge? You know how outside linebackers play these days.
You guys don't have to worry about him.
Why is he out?
He got
Did
hurt.
he really?
Yeah, he got hurt.
I completely missed that.
I haven't heard, he actually got carted off in that game. He walked off on his own accord, but they carted him to the back.
Huh.
They did a CAT scan, and I haven't been able to get a full read on what's going on with him. So I'm assuming that he's not going to be in this game, based off what we've heard so far. And so, but he's our best linebacker in my opinion. He was a freshman All-American when he was at Arizona State, then transferred to USC, and there was some issues when it came to the defensive coaching staff and not having him in there, which we all thought was a big mistake on our previous defensive staff. But hopefully we can get him back soon. But
yeah,
we have Mason Cobb and Easton Mascarenas Arnold, which are great linebackers. So I think they'll still pick up a lot of slack.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I didn't know that. All right. Well, I guess Brendan, Max Spencer, did you have anything else? I was going to ask him for his keys now to the game and his prediction.
I got nothing.
All right, Brendan, let's hear it. Don't hold back. What are your keys to the game, and what's your score prediction for this matchup Saturday?
So make Max throw, and of course get off on third downs, do quick 3-and-outs for our defense, and yeah, just make him throw, and then I think we'll be good on the defensive side. And offensively, we got to start fast. We've been starting slow these past two games against Michigan and Wisconsin. We cannot do that. I know we've always picked it up in the second half, but we're getting into the second half of the season. We really got to continue to actually start fast and finish fast. And as long as we can get ahead by 14, I think we're I don't know if Minnesota's really able to play from behind, but I digress because of the Michigan game. You guys really stormed back in the fourth quarter, so I think we'd be good with a 14-point lead, but because of Danton Lynn is really good when it comes to adjustments in the second half. And so my score predictions for this game, I'm going to say 35 to I'll do 20. 35-20.
That's fair, and that's a USC cover.
Yeah, USC, but you guys have the spread right now is 9.5, I think, right now.
Yeah, so, I think that might be a little bit of a, I don't say overreaction, but
it's dropped down to 8.
8?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess we really impressed people last week against Michigan. I don't know. As a Gopher fan, I'm just, thinking Riley gets so good at getting his guys the ball and just having it seems to be every week that there's just a couple of plays that he just has drawn up that he can just get, whether it be Branch or Woody Marks or one of those guys, just the ball when he wants to. And
He's
we
brilliant.
haven't been super heavily tested in our pass coverage yet this year, and our linebackers were not great at it last year. So I'm very concerned of covering stuff over the middle. So I think your score prediction is pretty accurate, considering mine's pretty close to yours. But we'll let you go, Brendan. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you.
All right. So the Light the Torch podcast, we are on YouTube. We are on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And then also we are on Twitch as well. We stream now we stream on Wednesdays and Sundays. So catch us on those platforms. And for me on Twitter, I'm Blackie Chen _gaming 897 is where you can find me at for X. So, but yeah, really appreciate you guys having me on. So,
awesome.
I'm looking forward to this game.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck the rest of the season, and we'll see you next time.
All right, fight on.
Thanks, man. Well, thanks again to Brandon and the Light the Torch podcast for coming to our show. Guys, what do you think of what Brandon had to say?
I thought a lot of his observations were pretty astute about just the matchups in this game. I am intrigued to see our offensive line against their defensive line. If they're not going to put it together this game, then it's probably not going to happen all year. And that's not a knock against USC's defensive line. It's one of the, I don't even want to say easier because they've been much improved over last year. But one of the easier teams to run against that we have left on the schedule, probably. So if we can't run it here, I don't know when that's going to actually get improved upon. PJ had his presser, was asked about being able to run the ball again, and it didn't work out. And he was, talking about how we're shooting ourselves in the foot, which he's kind of right. 3 false starts last week didn't help. But and he said, we are good at running the ball, but teams we're playing against are good. It's like, well, we weren't necessarily running the ball against Rhode Island and Nevada either. So that's what I'm most intrigued to see, I guess, with our offense, because I do think we're going to have to rely on Brosmer there to be accurate and pretty efficient.
Mm-hmm. I did think it was interesting when he brought up the point that, Minnesota has gone up against 2 great defenses out of Iowa and Michigan. USC is a great team, but I don't know if their defense is really on par with Iowa or Michigan. So maybe from seeing these elite defenses, the past 2 weeks, maybe this opportunity will hopefully allow us to put things together to see something work. I think running the football, I'll get to the keys in the game, but I think it's going to be crucial. I think we're right. I think Brosmer will have to have a good game, but if we can establish a run game somehow, we can potentially win this game.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see, going up against the last 2 offenses being very similar, where they're obviously going to rely on their ground game. And, we wanted to force their quarterback to throw the ball. Now it's like the exact opposite. Like now you have USC who's throwing the ball 61% of the time. And I wonder how much of that too factors into the spread being what it is. Because you look at it on paper and Minnesota is 3rd in the country on defensive success rate against the pass. But at the same time, it's like because we played Michigan and Iowa and North Carolina, who's kind of figuring out their quarterback situation. And
we didn't stop the run. So people were just running. It's all skewed. But I do think, I think we're at our best defensively defending the pass. At the same time, I just think USC is really good at throwing the football. So it is going to be a challenge. And if you're without Justin Wally, good luck. I mean, when he brought up, I wrote down his name here, Jacoby. What's the last name? I can't read my handwriting. What's the big-bodied receiver? He brought him up.
Jacoby Lane.
Jacoby Lane, thank you.
Yeah.
6'4". I mean, yeah, we still got Ethan Robinson, who got a little dinged up last game as well, but you assume is going to be out there. I just think you need Justin Wally if you have
We
any
need
chance
Wally.
at slowing this passing game down. And then, as much as they've thrown the ball, it's not like USC's like terrible at running the ball. They're still at 145 yards a game, just about, which puts them 72nd in the country. And I mean, they're not a running team, and they're still running the ball for about 50 more yards a game than us on average. And so,
Yep.
I don't know. I just think that this is a matchup disaster for our linebacking core, to be honest, with how much they move Branch around, and then Woody Marks is a shifty little back. I just think that what is their coach? Blanking. I almost called him Lane Kiffin. That's not Lane Kiffin. Lincoln Riley. Thank you. That Lincoln Riley is just gonna be drawing up plays for guys over the middle of the field all day long. I hope I'm wrong. Since I kind of switched us to our defense against their offense, our D line's going to have to take over. They're going to have to dominate. Yeah. They're going to have to get pressure. He's mentioned that if there is a weakness on the USC offense, it is the offensive line. Is our defensive line going to be able to do to them what Michigan did? Probably not, but the D line has been overall pretty good at getting after the passer. I believe let's see here, we're 22nd in sack rate. So out of, take all the dropbacks that they've seen, they're 22nd in the country at getting home on those. So they're going to, it's Jaw Joyner, Anthony Smith, Danny Strigano, all those guys going to need them to get after Miller Moss, make it uncomfortable. And
Yeah. And unfortunately, you're probably not going to be able to bring a lot of extra pressure too. And if you do, you have to get home if you don't have as many guys back in coverage, because it's little room for error when you got this sort of passing attack.
Right. Before we get into predictions and everything too, I think an important thing from a coaching standpoint is going to be second half adjustments. What I'm reading here, guys, is they've been awesome adjusting in the second half. USC, they've been outscoring opponents 87-23 in the second half this season. They're ranked fourth on defense in both passing and rushing defense in the second half, and they're 11th in allowing passing TDs in the nation. So Lincoln Riley is a genius. I think that we cannot let what happened in the first half against Michigan. I think that if you do that against USC, there is no chance of coming back. They're too electrifying on offense. They have so many weapons. They can score like that. We're going to have to do a classical PJ kind of game plan where we run the ball, just kind of bleed out that clock, and then hopefully eke out a win just by having possession of the football.
I agree with what you're saying, though, but with how the offense has been performing, I don't know if you can do that. I think the offense is going to have to play. Well, I don't think they will do this. What I think they should do, and I'm not the only one saying this, but we mentioned it last show, Spencer. They seem to do better in the up-tempo offense.
Yeah.
I think ideally you just keep doing that, but that's kind of, USC's not like hurry up, but they're kind of similar in going up tempo, heavy pass, taking shots. And then if we are doing that then and having success with it, that's great. I think that is your best bet. But then it kind of turns into almost like, okay, your offense doing that versus USC's offense doing that back at you. And when you put it like that, I just don't like the odds of our offense keeping pace like that, unless we're causing a bunch of turnovers defensively, which is one of my keys to the game. But I agree. You're probably going to have to be able to run the ball better than you have at any point this season. So like you said, keep their offense on the sideline. I just don't know if your offense runs effectively like that style this year, obviously, with the offensive line struggling. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out.
Yeah. So with that, fellas, I guess we'll get to the keys to the game and our score predictions. I'll go first if you both don't mind. Keys of the game, I think we just got to clean up from what happened last week. Number one, turnovers. We cannot turn the ball over. That killed us last week. I think if we don't turn the ball over, we win that game against Michigan. amongst other things that we'll get into later. But that's number one. Number two, offensive line. We need to see something from the guys up front this game. Brandon made a great point that, Iowa and Michigan have great defenses and they're great up front. This is the game where they have to show something, show us what they're made of. If they can get some good blocks going and we can establish a run, which is my next key of the game, we definitely have a chance to win. Get the ball running, try and bleed out the clock. I know that's, like we mentioned, Kurt, I know up-tempo seems to be working better, but if we can kind of go back to our roots, Big Ten football, we're able to win this game. And then lastly, I think in defense is a bend but don't break sort of thing. They have electrifying players. Jacoby Lane is so good. He can break out for a 75-yard touchdown at will, it seems like. So if we can just give up just small kind of plays, not the big one, I think that'll also help us. They're going to be able to score points, but we just got to limit the damage that they do play after play. With that said, I think that we do end up going with up-tempo offense, but I don't think it'll be enough. I do think the Gophers will be able to score 28 points, but I think the Trojans are able to squeak out 42. So I got Gophers 28, USC 42.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, this game is all about, I feel like that first offensive drive is going to tell us a lot. It's been a little bit encouraging to see just how the play calling has adjusted to the strength of this offense, or at least kind of like trying to find the strength or what the strength is going to be that day.
Outing Scott, Gophers 27-21. Just feels like the Gophers upset to me. I hope so.
Well, I hope so.
I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, just with Harbaugh, whether it's the ground game or at least just getting Darius Taylor the ball through the air, which it seemed like we did a lot of against Michigan, which was encouraging. But, whatever we can do to keep their offense off the field and just control the football, be methodical. Like you said, Spencer, we can't be turning the ball over and giving them a short field, because if Michigan's going to take advantage of a short field, USC's absolutely going to do the same thing. And yeah, like having Branch back there returning punts and kicks is terrifying, especially with Minnesota. We're 111th in the country in net field position. Like, not only are we giving up huge, terrible field position, we're starting so much further back than everyone else we play. And especially a team like this, it's almost not even going to matter, because they can kind of score from anywhere, but make them earn it at this point. And then, like I said earlier, the pass rush just has to be effective. It doesn't necessarily have to be all through blitzing, just because the more guys you have bringing pressure, that's just one less guy back covering their superstar receivers. So I hope we can try to control the game a little bit, bleed the clock. But in the end, I do think USC wins this one 28-21. I think we might get a little bit of a late push and have to go up tempo out of necessity and maybe pick up a late score.
Man, yeah, I don't know. Guys, preseason, I picked this game as the Gophers upset W. I thought it was going to be an upset pretty much the whole time until, our offensive line. It's not the offensive line that I wanted. But anyway, my three keys to the game are you can't have wasted possessions. And what I mean, the up-tempo offense has been nice, but in between, there's too many possessions in between us scoring throughout the game where we're going 3 and out too fast or just doing absolutely nothing. Last week, it was a block punt, turnover. Earlier in the year, it's been more often 3 and outs, like a lot of times against Iowa, 3 and out, 1 first down, then turnover. So you got to have less wasted possessions. And it doesn't always have to be points, but it's got to be a long enough marching down the field, try and flip field position and get your defense a breather, because USC is going to do everything they can to tire them out. So less wasted possessions on offense. Number 2, we've all said it, D-line's got to win the battle. Got to get after Miller Moss, make some errant throws, force some turnovers. And number 3, can we run the football? That's what's going to come down to, I think. If we can establish a run game and it looks a little bit more like last year where Darius Taylor's getting closer to that 4 yards per carry, I'll like our odds. But We haven't been able to do that yet, and so I'm not picking that to happen. My score is very similar to Brendan's. I have USC 35, Gophers 17. So I've come down quite a bit from the upset pick that I had preseason. I hope I'm wrong. The Gophers did some good things, but got to see it at this point.
Yep. And there it is, folks. 0-3 from yours truly, the Sky U Pod. But hey, there is hope, and I like what Outing says. If you are USC, this could be one of those trap games for you, right? The Gophers are more than capable of winning, but we just haven't really seen a whole lot from some of the the linemen and everything. Find our lack of faith disturbing. It's been quite a year. The Gophers have lost this past 7 Power 4 games that they played. We are in need of one. Hopefully it's this one. I do have a little faith.
If we're going to end that positivity, the first half of Iowa and the comeback against Michigan should show you that there's enough talent on the team to get it done. It's just the coaching's got to be better. The execution's got to be better. O-line's got to come out firing. I still think the defense started out too slow and not filling the run gaps. Again, I don't know what that's really going to look like against USC just because they are such a different offense. Hopefully Wally's back. Hopefully the secondary's healthy. Yep. We'll see.
That's right. I love the positivity. But with that, we're going to have to go to another topic that's a little negative. The Big Ten, they've altered their onside kick officiating in wake of the Minnesota-Michigan ending. Just a brief note here, they're modifying it after what happened on that controversial onside kick play at the end of the Minnesota-Michigan game. Officiating crews from the league will now position the line judge and the headline judge on the restraining line of the kickoff team, thereby putting multiple officials in the best position to consistently make the correct judgment, the Big Ten said in the statement. PJ Fleck and staff, they did submit the play to the Big Ten coordinator of officials to review, and the coordinator informed them that the play was too tight to flag, something that Curdy and I definitely mentioned on our post-game show on Saturday. Just another quote from the Fox officiating analyst Mike Pereira and the analyst Chris Peterson. They both questioned the ruling during the game. Quote, "I am sick to my stomach right now," says Peterson, the former coach of Boise State and Washington. "I just hate to see this when the officials are making something up. Like, I don't know why they would throw the flag. To me, these are always close calls. That's balls kicked. What are we doing? Let the kids play."
I got his answer. They're protecting Michigan from a potential upset L in the big house that they don't want to dip. Their big matchups later on. That's what it was. I mean, it's one thing. Missed calls happen every game. Calling something that's not there is something else. And that's what makes it so frustrating as you're a Gopher fan. Is you play into it, he sees something that's not there, right? So then it's just like, oh, it's one thing to just play it up, but then it's like, well, why would you throw that flag to begin with? Oh, maybe to protect, I don't know, Michigan in the big house, who seems to always get favorable calls late in games in that stadium. Looking at Illinois, 2020, is that 2? Indiana was all over this one. I guess they had a play back in the 70s or 90s where the running back threw the ball out of bounds and they let it, the Michigan running back, to stop the clock in order to get the game-winning playoff, and they gave it to him. I'm just saying, Michigan's the pampered kid of the Big Ten, in my opinion. It feels that way. And here's the thing. Like, people have pointed out, like, it looks like we blocked before the ball went 10 yards, which is now a penalty. And so that part, I get it. It's just the ref throwing the flag on something that wasn't there just leads you into suspension of, oh, they were just going to bail out Michigan no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not something that's reviewable, the offside. The blocking before the recovery is. So you just didn't even really have a chance on that play, essentially, from the ref's viewpoint there. Any other thoughts from you guys?
I'll say, there was obviously a lot of the comparisons made to the Iowa game from last year.
Which makes no sense.
It doesn't. And I would even say this, I guess first off, I would say, yeah, it sucked. That's not why we lost, though. I mean, I think everyone
Right.
can point out that that's not the reason we lost. And I think Iowa last year was like, well, that's the entire reason they lost the game. We didn't even get an opportunity to then get the ball and try and score or tie it towards overtime like Iowa did. So that was the most painful part. Is like the opportunity, like the game was just over at that point. Like,
I mean, there was a retake, I guess, is what they would push back with, but
yeah, another onside kick, easy, sure.
Yeah, right. Well, and here's the thing: if you're like, I'm sorry, Iowa, how stupid do you have to be to think it's even comparable? Like, the one resulted in a literal rule change, the other got reviewed.
Yeah.
Your coach still cried about it, and they not only did they deem that it was the right call, they deemed that they missed the personal foul on your play. So honestly, that made it not easier. It's still not a fun play to talk about. I agree. It was not the reason we lost. Was kind of a reason because it took away the onside kick recovery, but we were dominating. But to overcome as many mistakes as we did, potentially still have a chance to win it would have been awesome. But the block punt, the fumble by Daniel Jackson, which I still think his forward progress was stopped. I don't know how that went on for as long as it did. It is what it is. I think I'll just say it one more time. The sequence that bothered me so much is Daniel Jackson catches it. They rule it incomplete. Yeah, they threw a flag, but I don't get what they're looking at. His whole body's like going across the end zone. The ball's just stuck to him. I don't know why. And even if you didn't see it, why are you assuming incomplete? Like, I'm pretty sure that's not how they're supposed to rule that. And then you come up, the next play basically is the onside kick, and you just flag something that's not there. Like, so that's the frustrating part. It's not like missed calls happen every game, but to flag stuff that's not there to protect Michigan and their big house, again, that's just what's so frustrating to me. Great that they changed the rule. I don't know why it wasn't already that way to begin with. Just makes a lot of sense to have the guy there, the ref standing in that position to me. But it is what it is.
Yep. Bummer. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that, fellas. I guess the next topic.
Was I too harsh on Iowa fans calling them stupid?
No. No. Yeah, that's all I'll say. No. Look, everyone listening, it's that time of the podcast. The famous Sky U Pod Parlay of the Week. We hit it last week, fellas.
Back to back, baby.
Back to back.
Get out your notepad. Write this down.
Yep. Everyone listening, back to back. We're making you money. If you would have put everything you won on the week before on this past week, guess what? You'd be a rich person right now. So if you want extra money, listen to this. All right, I'll start it off for this week, fellas. This week has been a little worrisome for me. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of scouring everything, and I'm thinking, man, I don't like any of the spreads. Usually when I don't like a spread, I kind of go for an over-under. But then I saw this one. Clemson is on the road at Florida State.
I considered this one, yeah.
Clemson is 14.5-point favorites. Give me Clemson. Florida State is out with DJ Uiagalelei. Though this might actually help them, to be honest. No offense, DJ.
Yeah, it might.
But that actually might help. But Florida State, fellas, they are just down and out. It is not looking good down there. In Clemson, after that embarrassing loss against Georgia, they have been humming. They have been putting points on the board. They look like a great football team. I think this is just easy money. So give me Clemson and the point, 14.5.
I like it a lot. I'll go next. First of all, since we've got you back-to-back hits on this parlay, please hit that like and subscribe button. Subscribing to YouTube really helps, but we appreciate anywhere where you're listening. Just got to plug that when we can while we're getting people money. Okay. I felt so good about this one that made me think like this is like Vegas just knows an upset's brewing. But Missouri is plus 1.5 on the road against Texas A&M. I get Texas A&M, tough environment, SEC game, but like I think Missouri's a really good team. I know they had a scare against Vandy. Boston College played them tight, but I think Boston College is a good team, and I think Vandy might be an okay team. I just think Missouri is a good team, and I don't think A&M has done anything to really show us that they should be favored in this game. So I'm taking Missouri plus 1.5 on the road at A&M.
Yeah, I like both of those. For mine this week, I agree with you, Spencer. It was kind of a tough week. There's not a lot of things that really jumped out, but I guess the one I felt the best about is I'm going to take a team that's playing like one of the better teams in the country on both sides of the ball. Tennessee is a 13.5 point favorite on the road at Arkansas. Getting them just under 2 touchdowns. Arkansas has been fine. They've been better than probably most people thought, but Tennessee has just been offensively and defensively on a tear. And they're coming off a bye after the Oklahoma game. So hopefully fresh and ready to roll against the Razorbacks.
There you have it, folks. That's how you're going to win some money this week. And You're welcome.
Yeah, I like it, fellas. Hopefully we can go hit the 3-peat and continue raking it in. With that, we'll do our classic picks of the week. One of them being my pick, Clemson at Florida State. Clemson, again, is 14.5-point favorites. I
threw that on there. I threw that on there before I knew it was your pick of the week. So, yeah, I'm all in on Clemson for all the reasons you said. I think Florida State is not only not very good this year, but I don't think they have a lot of motivation. So, yeah,
right.
Clemson.
Yeah, they are dead.
Yeah. Next game, Iowa is at Ohio State. Ohio State, 19.5-point favorites. Boy, I think I'm going to have to go with the Buckeyes, fellas. Yeah, I just think it's an easy
At first,
pick.
I thought it was a slam dunk, but then next week, Ohio State is at Oregon. So that part does give me pause. Slight trap game. Iowa's super well disciplined. I still don't think their offense is very good. And I think Ohio State's going to be good enough to, not saying Iowa won't be able to run the ball at all, but when you're one-dimensional like Iowa, I think things can get sideways on you pretty fast, as we've seen as Gopher fans for years as well. So I'm going to go Buckeyes as well. I hope they look at it as their first true test, and go Buckeyes.
Yeah, I'm going to take Ohio State too. I do not believe in Iowa's offense being able to score against the Ohio State defense.
Fair enough.
Great. All right, Rutgers is on the road against Nebraska. Nebraska being 6.5-point favorites here. I think I'm going to go with Nebraska. I'll take Nebraska in the points there. Rutgers has looked pretty good, but it'll be interesting to see them in the sea of red. I don't know. I just have a good feeling about Nebraska on this one.
I think it's going to be a tremendous game. I don't know. Like, I feel like I should be picking Nebraska, but something just gives me hesitancy where not necessarily bad luck, but their kicking game has been a huge problem. And I don't feel like they've been relying enough on the run game. And I think Rutgers' defense is pretty stout. So it's going to be close. And I think Nebraska wins, but I am going to take Rutgers to cover. I think it's more of like a 3-point victory opposed to a touchdown. So I'll take Rutgers in the points. But I don't feel good about it. I would not pick this one at all. With actual.
Yeah. I know. This one gave me pause too, especially because it is I mean, 7's not huge, but way bigger than I would have expected. But I'm going to take Nebraska just coming back home. Rutgers had no business winning that game last Friday against Washington. So maybe that's stuck in my head.
Determination. The Greek rifle.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm going to take Nebraska at home. Ugly. Stay away.
Yeah.
All right, now we're traveling out west when Michigan goes over to Washington. Washington's actually 2.5 point favorites, and I can see why the line is looking like that. Michigan doesn't really have much of an offense, but I do think Michigan does cover the 2.5 points. I just think they'll find some way to eke out this win on the road.
I'm going to take Washington at home. I know Michigan has a good defense, and we didn't see Will Johnson in that game against the Gophers, but I think Washington's defensive front is stronger against the run than Minnesota's in general, and I think that's really going to hurt Michigan. So I think Washington's going to come out fired up after feeling like they should have won last week. If they can just avoid costly mistakes, which every football team tries to avoid, I think Washington can get the job done at home. I'm going to go Huskies.
Yeah, man, this one too stinks. Like, I'm gonna take Michigan. Sorry, I'm gonna take Michigan. I just, even though their offensive, struggles, and we saw what they did last week against us, like, I just feel like they're a team that can just find a way to win. And Washington,
Yeah, the refs? No,
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
kidding.
Yeah, that's true. They don't have the home cooking this week, but I'm still gonna take the Wolverines.
Yeah. Kurt, you made a good point. This is also the rematch of the national championship last year, so maybe Washington's got a little chip on their shoulder. Even though the head coach is different, they still got some players that were in that game. So
I want to throw another one on there, Shuddy, really quick because the Clemson one was kind of
yeah,
a waste.
yeah, we could throw that one
I
out.
don't.
What do you got?
I got Sparty at Oregon. I
Oh
didn't put
yeah,
that on there, did I?
no,
That's a Friday. That's a Friday night game. Oregon is a 24-point
yeah,
favorite at home over Sparty. I'm gonna take Oregon.
I am
I
too.
think Michigan State is just in a tough stretch right now because I believe it went Boston College, then Ohio State, and then now they're traveling out west to Oregon. I just think that's a really tough stretch. I think they are on the right track with their coaching staff. I just don't think they got the horses to win it, and might see a little bit of a fatigue here at this point from them, just with that tough stretch. So I'm going to take the Ducks.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Oregon as well. They started off kind of slow early, but they've been cruising of late, and yeah, Friday night game, it's tough.
All right, yeah, we can do that instead of the Clemson Florida State since that's an easy one that we'll win you all money on. But lastly, we got Miami at Cal. Miami's 10.5 point favorites. Boy, this one's tough, but I think I'm going to take Cal. I think they cover those points. It's a long trip from South Florida over to Cal, and I think that they can cover those points, I guess. I'll take Cal.
Man,
I think I'm gonna lean Miami.
I am going to go Miami too.
Extra day rest, and they just got scared straight against Virginia Tech on that Friday night game.
I trust Miami's offense to put up points.
Yeah.
Like, their defense is a little, at least last game was a little wonky. They started out so strong, I felt like Miami did. And so it's like, can they get back to just playing clean football? Because the last couple games it's gotten a little sloppy. So I feel like that's why the line's where it's at. I'm going to say they do. But I agree, it is tough given that they're traveling out west.
Yep.
Guys, the
Well,
Big Ten is absolutely
yeah.
carrying this week, though, as far as the slate goes. I mean, it's
Yeah.
no fault to Clemson, but like Clemson at Florida State was probably supposed to be a big game, and it's not looking as exciting as it was. Auburn stinks. They're at Georgia, but like, there's really no other. And Missouri's at A&M, which A&M's ranked. I didn't even see that. And now the Lions moved to 2 points in A&M's favor, which is nuts. Anyway, we'll stick with the 1.5 because that's when I picked it. But go ahead,
Yeah.
we can say goodbye to these folks now.
Yeah, with that, everyone, thanks again for tuning in to yet another episode of Sky U Pod. Just want to say thanks to Brandon again from Light the Torch podcast, the USC affiliate of the College Huddle. Again, check us on YouTube, X, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. Go ahead and check out our partner's website, thecollegehuddle.com, for more college football podcasts and articles. Please always like and subscribe. Let your friends know, let your family know to tune in. And as always, like I say, we love you all, and we'll see you next time.